Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. As we all know, we are here to talk numbers, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So on item 4, discussion of the tentative city millage and tentative city budget for fiscal year 2025, I am going to read the following off of paper. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. The public hearing is now convened to discuss the millage rate and budget. The fiscal year 2025 budget commences on October 1st of 2024 and continues through September 30th of 2025. We will begin with the City of Port Orange City Council discussion of the tentative millage necessary to fund the fiscal year 2025 tentative budget for the City of Port Orange. The City of Port Orange is the taxing authority, and the current year taxable value for operating purposes is $5 billion, that's billion with a B, $5,519,205,501. The tentative millage rate is 4.975 mils per $1,000 of valuation, which represents a 7.84% increase in ad valorem tax revenues above the rollback rate of 4.6134. In addition to the foregoing tentative millage levy, there is a voter-approved millage levy of 0.1720 mils necessary to fund the debt service payments on the 2006 general obligation bond for public safety capital facilities, which were refunded in 2016. So at this point, Mr. City Manager, will you comment on the need for the increase in millage over the rollback rate and the specific purposes for
Yes,
that
sir.
increase?
The proposed millage of 4.9750 is an increase of 7.84% over the rollback millage rate of 4.6134 and is related to the following operational and capital needs within the general fund. I've got it broken down basically of operational cost and capital to see. Most of it is really related to the contracts for our personnel. So we have union contracts with the vast majority, and we also have civil service in addition to that. We also added funds to streets and sidewalk maintenance. So it was about $300,000 we put into additional street and sidewalk maintenance. There were 4 new positions, including the 2 community service officers that we're using to direct traffic at the elementary schools. We have health workers' comp insurance increase and property casualty insurance increases, and our vendor contracts. So median maintenance, building materials, sports officials, fireworks, things like that have gone up. In addition to that, the capital projects that are impacting the millage rate include about $2 million for parks projects, including City Center Fields, Causeway Park, and all children's park improvements, $1 million for a police department generator. We have about $200,000 in matching funds for the FEMA grants for all those homes. There's about 52 homes that were part of the program coming out of Ian and the other hurricanes to either elevate or demolish. And so of that money, there's about $200,000 is our part. The rest of it is all coming from FEMA, but we pay up front and get back when it happens. So that's part of what's affecting this. Main Street Bridge has some repairs, and then our 1990s telephone system is being replaced. So those are the highlights and the principal reasons why the millage rate needs to go up over the current rate.
Okay, appreciate that. Council discussion. One thing I wanted to point out, I circulated some data to you guys, and the reason why I did that is I always like to benchmark. I like to see where we are compared to other cities, and keeping in mind that wherever we're going up in millage does not represent the same increase in our budget, because the millage rate, property taxes, only account for a portion of our total revenue. We have funding from other sources, including sales tax revenues and things like that. So to go up 7.9% in millage, that was required to be able to raise the budget 4%. So to a general fund of $61.1 million, to increase that spending by 4%, we got to raise the millage rate by 7.9% just to get to that 4% need. And frankly, I'm not unhappy with that, because on that second sheet there, when I compare us to the 19 taxing authorities in the county, 16 cities, the county, the sheriff's department, and Volusia County Schools, you'll see on there that we are near the bottom in the size of our budget expanding. There are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 budgets that are expanding by double digits. Only Pearson, Volusia County Schools, and Orange City have are growing their budget by a smaller percentage than us. So like I said, we're near the bottom. There are 15 government agencies that are growing their budget more than us. So I appreciate Wayne. Last night, Public Utilities, when we had that presentation, we talked about gaining efficiencies. There's two angles to that. Certainly gaining efficiencies in quality of service and gaining efficiencies in costs are two different things, but they're both very important. One is how we take care of the taxpayers, and the other is the obligation that they have to be able to receive those services. So it's great to see that we have that commitment, and I appreciate that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, with all this Pollyanna good news, that that there is not room for improvement, because there always is. And that challenge, I will always put that to you. And I'm sure the next mayor and the next council will do the same as this council has and will continue to do. And we appreciate that, because any organization that stagnates goes backwards. We always have to look at systems of continuous improvement. Okay, so I kind of led off, and usually I kind of set the table. I gave a little bit more than I normally do, but what I wanted to do is, because I shared this information and the benchmarking information with council, I wanted to give you guys a chance to look at that first as well to see where we're at. But comments on where we are for the discussion on item 4. Reed, why don't you open?
Yeah, I think we hashed a lot of stuff out at the max millage. I appreciate the additional information, Mayor. I thought that was actually rather interesting when you see how much above rollback a lot of these cities are, and where we rank in that regard. You know, never want to have to spend more money to get similar results, but unfortunately that's the way of the U.S. and global economy right now. Things are just not cheaper than they used to be. I think Wayne said it quite a few times. Bullets still cost what they cost. We got to have them, and that's just one example of everything that that goes into running the city. So I think staff worked really hard. I'm glad again. I think Wayne, now this is 3 out of 4 years that we've set a max millage, and you've come back in under that, and that always I'm appreciative of. So yeah, that's all I really have to say for now.
Okay. Drew, what you got?
Well, just looking at the numbers, I mean, I think it's fairly impressive to just mention that out of all the municipalities, and I'm not saying like the sheriff or the the school board or anything, we were one of the few that actually lowered our millage rate, the max from our current, and we have one of the lowest percentages. It looks like top 3 of the actual increase over rollback at 7.84, and then for the budget to only increase 4% basically. I think it speaks volumes as to how things are going behind the scenes, and these department heads and their employees doing things. I mean, we just praised Public Utilities last night with everything they've saved just in chemicals and the technology and all the things that they're doing to save that department money, and it's showing in the way we're doing things. And I kind of like where we're at. The numbers look good, and yes, the budget's going up, but I think we minimized it fairly well.
Can you tell me the cost of anything that stays the same in this country, the way things are going right now?
No, everything's, and some of the things like our insurance, the healthcare and the benefit, we have no control over that. And our outside vendors, they're, the people we have, they're charging more. And so all those things add up, and if a 4% increase, I think it's outstanding.
Well, who knows, maybe Wayne can come back even lower because he's still got 2 weeks. Just saying. Tracy, what you got?
I have to agree with Councilman Basham. When you look at inflation's being at 7 and 8% nationally, and we come in that we hold things at 4%, it just shows the credit of all the staff and the management, which you guys have done. We have costs that are constantly going up. Payrolls goes up. We have to battle that. We have insurance costs that is across the board. Everybody feels that pinch. The city does too. So the question is always is where can we do these corners, not to cut amenities, but to court costs that does not sacrifice the amenities that we give back to our citizens. We don't want to fall backwards where we have deficiencies in our city. We want to make sure that we have the percentage right, that it doesn't cost people beyond where they need to be, but also sacrifice what we give back to them. So for staff coming back with the budget the way it is at 4%, thank you. And Steve, your team, presentation last night, that's just one of many, many things that the city has done. And it's amazing how something so small can change. That can be $100,000 savings. You know, it's huge what something small can do. I always tell people pennies add up, and they crucially do. So
Yes, they do.
any piece we can do, the better we can be for next year and the next time we come around.
Scott?
Wayne, can you go back and touch base? You had mentioned about the FEMA project and purchasing some properties and how that's impacting this year's budget and how those dollars are coming back to us. And just kind of go back and recap how that whole thing actually works out and how that's impacting the budget this year.
So the federal government authorized money through multiple storms. So it'd be easier to say it was Ian, which is pretty much what drove it, but it's eligible through all of those storms that we had over the last couple of years. And people were eligible to join the programs. The county's doing some we're doing internally here. They were eligible to participate in either having their homes elevated or acquire. They could either elevate their homes or we could acquire and demolish their homes. We ended up with about 52, a little over 50 total that were interested in the program. And some of them, like the ones where the people are going to stay in the home and elevate it, they end up paying themselves. So there's a federal match and then there's their own money. The ones that we're going to acquire that we would just clear the lots, we would end up paying the match that the resident would pay. They're going to sell the house and get out. So in order to do this, it's all paid up front. So we budgeted the money for up front. When it's all said and done, if all 52 homes come through, it'll end up costing the city about $200,000 for all those lots to acquire, own, and have the homes removed. So the program and the value of that is sometimes we've gone in and looked at the cost of stormwater improvements, and you could spend $4 million on a stormwater improvement, or you can spend $200,000 to remove the houses that would need the $4 million improvement. So we're trying to look at the stormwater issue from every angle we can. You guys saw the resiliency program and the vulnerability assessment. That's going to give us a 50-50 match on storms. We're doing small projects. We got a stormwater master plan. This is just one of the other ways. But it does ultimately come back and cost us some money to acquire the property that will ultimately be the city's, and it'll have to stay open land.
And I guess what I'm trying to wrap my brain around then is the timeline of that, and how does that impact a single year's budget, or is it impact on a multi-year's budget? How quickly do we think we would get our funds back, or not at all? Or you know what I'm saying? Like,
We're
I'm just trying to
showing it-
understand that whole angle a little better.
We're showing it in this year's budget because it was the year where we have to be in the programs. We have to show them that we have
Right.
our match in order for them all to be eligible. So that's why it's showing. These had not in the past happened fast at all. They were 4 or 5 years out. I think most of the people were here for the 04 storms, the properties that we bought. I started here in 07, and we were just buying them in 8, I think, when I was here. So it's usually multi-years. What I understand from this is it's a lot faster. We're actually expecting these to start happening now next year for some of them. Yeah.
Now, as those properties get purchased, they're coming off the tax rolls too, right?
The ones we own, that would be correct.
So that's going to impact that in future budgets.
Yes, sir.
To do that. Okay.
Indeed. What else you got?
I mean, I echo a lot of the same thoughts that everybody else is. I mean, I would like to see us roll back the rate even farther than it is. I get that it's challenging and it's hard, but it's challenging and hard right now for for the taxpayers and all of the homeowners. It is nice to see that staff has worked towards a budget that doesn't sacrifice existing services or existing quality of life, while other cities are having to actually either stay at their current millage rates or actually increase it. So it is nice that we've been able to thus far see a reduction in our tax rate from last year, which is good. Where are we, can you just recap? I know the last time we talked, I think there were still some state dollars that we hadn't accounted for yet on that. Can you
We
touch
now
on-
have them all. The update that I sent you guys last week was the last one that was the gas tax revenue, and we had the final number. The state just found an error and corrected it, so we did lose about 120 grand. That disappeared out of our sidewalks and streets. So that with that in there now, that update that you got, I think it was Friday when we sent it,
So
that's all of the state revenues now.
Okay, that's the current. Okay.
One thing I also want to point out too in this discussion is that whatever we do with millage rate, Port Orange is not the largest city in Volusia County, yet we have more homesteaded properties than any city in Volusia County
That would be
by
good.
both number and percentage. So that we can do what we want with the millage rate. Our homesteaded properties are capped at that 2.97 save our homes. So we could double it, triple it, do whatever. We've got more people protected because of that homestead exemption. However, that also means that our businesses, every time we do this, shoulder a burden. And it's because of that 2/3, 1/3 ratio we have that we remain in the lower quartile of millage rates in the county. Because our businesses we have sufficient businesses to pick up that slack. We don't have a millage rate the size of Deltona, who has very little business in it because they have so many homes. With that, I just want to say thank you to our businesses. It's important that we invest in them as they invest in us, because they pick up a large part of the tax bill and help keep Port Orange affordable for everybody that lives here. So it's a symbiotic relationship. We take care of our businesses, they take care of us, and hopefully that continues to add to the quality of life. So to not recognize their role in all of this, I think it's important that we do that as well. So the balance between the save our homes, that millage protection with the homestead, and what our businesses do for us every year, it's important that we remember that as well.
Mayor, we're still sitting on the percentage of homesteaded properties. It's over 60% still.
I think it's just over 60. I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
That's a lot of homesteaded properties.
So with that, we need to hear any comments that the public has regarding the proposed tentative millage. You'll be allowed to address the council, make comments, ask questions. At this point, would anyone here care to speak to the discussion? Seeing none, back to council. Any other comments before we move on to the resolutions? With that, on to item 5, which is resolution 2434. Matt, could you read that into the record for us, please?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the tentative ad valorem property tax millage rates to be levied for fiscal year 2025, October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025, providing for scrivener's errors and an effective date.
Move to approve resolution 24-34, adopting the City of Port Orange fiscal year 2025 tentative millage rate of 4.975 mils per 1,000 valuation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, proper second. The item's open on the floor for discussion on the tentative city millage rate. Council comments? I know that we've already hashed it a little bit. What else have you got? Anyone?
Not on the millage rate.
I just, my only comment, and we've already had this discussion, I don't think there's an appetite for the rest of council. I just think that with everything else that's going on with homeowners insurances and everything else, that I would have liked to see support to use more money out of the reserve funds to try to offset some of this for this year. But that's a discussion we've already had, so.
Okay. Any other comments? There being none? Would anyone here care to speak to the item? Back to us. Final comments? Call the roll.
Councilman Foley,
Yes.
Councilman Grubbs,
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
No.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1. The adopted tentative millage rate of 4.975 mils per $1,000 evaluation is a 7.84% increase in ad valorem tax revenues above the rollback rate. In addition to the foregoing tentative millage levy, there is a voter-approved millage levy of 0.1720 mils necessary to fund the debt service payment on the 2006 general obligation bond for public safety, capital facilities that were refunded in 2016. Item 6, Resolution 24-35, tentative budget for fiscal year 24-25. Matt, would you read the resolution, please?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2025, October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025, for the City of Port Orange, providing for appropriation and procedures, providing for scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion to approve resolution number 24-35, adopting the City of Port Orange fiscal year 2025 tentative budget.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, proper second. The item's open on the floor for discussion. Council, on the budget, comments or questions? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Final comments? Call the roll.
Councilman Foley,
Yes.
Councilman Grubbs,
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. The budget includes all operating and capital costs for fiscal year 2025, and the budget includes the general, special revenue, debt service, capital, enterprise, and internal service funds. The proposed citywide fiscal year 2025 budget for all funds is $205,719,722. At this point, I wanted to point out that this is the first reading on the budget. If there's any opportunities, staff finds between now and then to squeeze a little more mills, we're always looking to squeeze that sponge a little bit farther, but otherwise, we will reconvene for the second reading of the budget on Wednesday, September 18th at 5:30 here in these council chambers. With that, does any other business come before us? Matt, have I covered everything? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.